sorry. It's live. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And welcome to the Unitarian Church of Edmonton. Welcome to those here in the sanctuary, to those in Zoom land, and to those who may be watching this later on YouTube. We are stronger because you are here with us. My name is Lynne Turvey. My pronouns are she, her, and I'll be your service leader this morning. I'm joined by our minister, Reverend Rosemary Morrison. Together, we hope that you'll find real respite and renewal in the fellowship we share this morning. We recognize everyone here has a role to play to help build this community. We give thanks to those many volunteers we have on a daily basis. Especially today, we are grateful for the people who made this service possible, which are our wonderful tech and Zoom support crew, our greeters, our coffee guru, and our musicians. We have a special one today too. Well, Gordon's special as well, but we have another special one. If you're new here, we invite you to stay for coffee and fellowship after the service. There may be even some cookies, we hope. If you've not already done so, please visit our newcomer table in the lobby, and you can learn more about our community and our traditions. We begin our gathering acknowledging that we are located on Treaty 6 territory. We respect the histories, languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all First Peoples of Canada, whose presence continue to enrich our vibrant community. Today, as part of the service theme of stories and their complexities, we acknowledge the rich heritage of storytelling that is a part of Indigenous cultures. These stories share history, cultural beliefs, and personal experiences. They are used to teach, connect, validate, nurture, and sustain communities and their people. They are values and goals we in the Unitarian Universalist tradition aim to uphold as well. We can learn from each other. Now, I think we may have a couple of announcements. Gordon might, but maybe not. Is Gordon there? No, he doesn't have. Oh, there you. I thought you would be at the piano. Okay. But Rosemary has one, I believe.
I just wanted to have a look at you. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Reverend Rosemary Morrison, pronouns she, her, and I'm excited and delighted to be here this morning with you here in the sanctuary, with you online, and as Lynn said, future YouTubers that might watch us online at a later date. My announcement is a job advertising. I have 2 jobs available for anyone that would like to have a nice little volunteer position. So the first one is to coordinate the ushers and greeters. Jennifer Hinchcliffe did that for years and is offering the opportunity up for grabs for anyone else that would like to do that. It doesn't mean you'll be ushering or greeting every Sunday. It just means that you'll be organizing them and having folks here for ushering and greeting on Sunday mornings. The other volunteer position available is coordinator or co-coordinators for the hospitality team, or team leads, whichever you'd like to call it. This person or these people will make sure there's coffee and cream and maybe some nibblies after church on Sunday and before church, and also organize when potluck soup Sundays might happen and put together a team for those events. So those are my announcements this morning. Please let me know if anyone is interested in those. I will begin shoulder tapping soon.
Is that Declan under there? Okay, Declan has an announcement.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Declan Kiley. How are you? We've got another movie night coming up. Our movie nights at the church are free events. They'll be scheduled for the last Friday of every month, And so that makes this one January 31st, the last Friday. We're going to be watching American Fiction right here at the church in the sanctuary for free as a Soul Matters discussion. And that will be January 31st starting at 6 p.m. We invite you to bring your own snacks and drinks and come for the discussion. We like to tie our movies in and pick them based on the Soul Matters theme and how we think we could draw on that theme with what the movie is telling us. So it's going to be pretty interesting. American Fiction here at the church, January 31st, 6 p.m. Be there.
Thank you. Thanks, Declan and Rosemary. Now, please take a moment to quiet your devices as we enjoy a special guitar prelude by our guest musician, Edmonton local Sean Presiloski. Sean is an instrumental fingerstyle guitar composer as well as a full-time guitar instructor. He is inspired from the existential to the mundane. Constantly motivated by his children, Miles and Callie, Sean's goal is to help you escape the outside world one moment at a time through his music. Another little factoid, Sean is our own Claire Horn's nephew. Thank you very much, Sean. We'll be hearing from you throughout the service. So, I now invite Yvonne Miro to come forward to light our chalice this morning as I read these words by Reverend Alicia Ford, which are also adapted by our own Reverend Rosemary. Another factoid, it is Yvonne's birthday today, so that's why she's lighting our chalice. When we pause to remember who we are, companions on this grand experiment called life, when we take a moment to shed the ways we have been carefully taught to believe we are separate, that some people are superior to others, when we take a moment to shed all of that and hear our stories, hear and see each other into existence, into community, when we take a moment to embrace, to practice a different way of being, when we answer the call of love, then we are living into the promise of building the world we dream about. Becoming explorers and learners in this world around us, humbled by what we do not yet know, fulfilling the promise of healing a fragmented world, laboring not just in hope, but also in love. In this spirit, we commit. In this spirit, we gather. In this spirit, we light our chalice. So our opening hymn is number 360 in the gray hymnal, Here We Have Gathered. And then the text will appear on the screen behind me, and I invite you to rise as you are willing and able. It's now time to share the abundance that we are so privileged to enjoy. Can I have two people circulate the offering plates, please? Oh, we have so many willing servers today. Thank you. We know that financial contributions to this self-sustaining congregation have come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they would have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life of this congregation. May we give in love and hope. If you wish to receive a tax receipt, you can find envelopes at the back of the sanctuary on the table. Please ensure you provide your contact name for information for tax receipts. Also, 1/2 of the unidentified cash received is given to an outside organization. This month, we are supporting Change for Children. In cooperation with the Indigenous people of developing countries, Change for Children aims to identify the root causes of poverty and, in the spirit of solidarity, assist in funding long-term solutions. Their mission statement says, to build civil society capacity in the Global South and Canada, to promote health, human rights, and create solutions to poverty through sustainable development. Now please join in singing From You I Receive as the offering is brought forward. You all. Next hymn, number 1052 in the Teal hymn book, Oneness of Everything. Again, the words will be behind me. And rise if and when you're willing and able. So for my service leader reflection, I began by, reflecting on the service theme, which is stories are meant to be complex. Then I had a look through the January Soul Matters package, which is about living love through the practice of story, exploring the power of stories and how one of the beliefs that gave birth to Unitarian Universalism was that human beings are authors of their stories, not passive characters in them. Yes, I agree that stories often have complexities that might only come to light later in those aha moments, but there are also stories that have that power embedded in their very simplicity. I'd like to tell you one of them. My mother died in 1998 at the age of 84. It wasn't until more than 10 years later, probably around her birthday, that my fond musings of her life and influence on me sowed the seeds of a story that I simply sat down at the computer and wrote right then. Here are some excerpts of what I called Mum and Apple Pie. My mother was a pie baker extraordinaire. Her pastry was the flakiest and the filling the most flavorful of any in the county, at least to Dad, my brother, and I. Watching her cut in the shortening with a kitchen knife, no pastry cutter for her, and rolling out the dough on the kitchen table, I listened to the stories of her childhood on a farm in Saskatchewan during the dirty 30s. Although horseback riding and piano playing were much preferred to domestic duties, she would often bake Saskatoon berry pies for the family and field crews so that my Granny Roe could get on with the myriad other chores awaiting her. What followed a few years later was a rather bleak period in Mum's early womanhood, when she would bake pies daily for a cafe that she and her first husband owned. She became adept with a rolling pin, which she might just as well have used on the womanizing husband that she divorced some 8 years later. But then she met my dad, a farm-raised fellow lately returned from service in World War II. She told me how fortunate she felt that the darkness within her first marriage was so eclipsed by the sunlight of her life with my dad. It wasn't always an easy life. The vagaries of farming can be hard on the constitution as well as the bank account. But it was a life replete with love, trust, hope, and joy, not only found within our family, but also from in the life of the community in which we all thrived. Dad was a member of the Vulcan Lions Club. Mum was a member of the United Church Women, a group that would prepare suppers for the monthly Lions Club meetings for a fee that would then be deposited in UCW coffers to support church and community causes. Invariably, Mum would bake several pies for these suppers. After she spent a few years transferring her pies from the farm to town in cardboard boxes, Dad put his carpentry skills to work and designed a wooden 3-level pie crate with sliding door. It was a boon to Mum's volunteer baking career and a definite hit with her UCW compatriots. She used the custom-built pie crate for many years until it was finally handed down to my sister-in-law for continued good service in the community. I didn't see the connection between Mum's pie-making skills and her life skills until after she died. It sometimes takes years to fully appreciate the gifts our parents have bestowed on us. My mother's disposition, as sweet as the pies she made, was matched only by her generosity and selfless devotion to her family and community. She taught me that the love given to others comes back many times over in ways that can't always be foreseen. Always willing to see the best in everyone, her radiant smile and gentle manner could bring out just that in those she met. My own temperament can be, shall we say, tart at times. More transient than my parents, I haven't always made enough time to contribute as fully to the communities in which I have lived, and I don't bake pies very often, much to the chagrin of my husband, although a benefit to both our waistlines. But the foundation of love that supported my childhood and the spiritual strength modeled by my mother have been inextricably woven into the fabric of my life, keeping my heart and soul safe through the journey. My mother continued to make pies until late in her life, and it wouldn't surprise me if one of the pies that was served after her funeral to family and friends wasn't from her own freezer. When I think of Mum, I often visualize her in the kitchen where her nurturing nature was happily expressed. It would seem that making good pies and leading a good life have more in common than one might imagine. I think now we are going to have a responsive reading, number 660 in the gray hymnal, and the words will appear there. I'll read the bold text, and please respond with the italicized version. Why should we live in such a hurry and waste of life?
We are determined to be starved before we are hungry.
I wish to live deliberately to front only the essential facts of life.
I wish to learn what life has to teach, and not when I come to die, discover that I have not lived.
I do not wish to live what is not life. Living is so dear.
Nor do I wish to practice resignation, unless it is quite necessary.
I wish to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life.
I want to cut a broad swath, to drive life into a corner, and reduce it to low terms.
If it proves to be mean, then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world.
Or it is so time to know it by experience and to be able to give true account.
We're going to be graced with another musical interlude from Sean.
Thank you, Sean. We're so lucky to have you here this morning. It's lovely. Each Sunday morning, congregations across the globe, across the continent, light candles of joy, concern, celebration, sorrow. We do that too. So we have lit candles for you to come and light your candles from. This is an outward expression of our inward human experience, and it makes us community, and it makes us, well, human. If someone could, for me, please light a candle for me as I have the microphone. I would like to light a candle for Carl Ulrich, whose wife passed a couple of weeks ago, and her funeral, her celebration of life, was yesterday at Westwood Unitarians. We are one of 2 Unitarian congregations here in Edmonton. And Carl, he and I have had many conversations because I find him so incredibly interesting. He is an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister as well. And he was a parish minister and decided to go into community ministry after he marched with Martin Luther King Jr. in Selma. And so he has a lot of really good stories. If you ever want to corner him, he's got some good stories. Thank you, Robert. If you could light a candle for Paula Ulrich and her family as she makes her way into the vast unknown. And now our tables are open and your hearts are full with life. I invite you now. is going to light 2 candles for us. One, which I should have asked for before, for Christine Hillis, who passed on January 5th, not part of our community, but I was asked by a dear friend to support her in her journey of cancer. And a last candle for all of those unspoken, hardly even maybe finished thoughts of joy and concern of all the things that life has in store for us. Thank you, Lynne. I would now like to invite you into a time of quiet meditation, a time to allow your souls, your spirits, your bodies just take a little break. The way it's going to go is I'll help you relax first, get you centered with a little guided meditation by invitation only. Then we'll have some silence. I will read a poem called Private Lives by Alan Peterson. A little bit of silence. I'll read it again. A little bit more silence, and then Sean will bring us out with some more wonderful guitar playing. I'm going to invite you to hold your applause till after the meditation, to after he does the prelude, and we will give him the gratitude that he deserves at the end of the service. So now I invite you to, if you wish, to place your feet on the floor and feel that gravity pulling you to the center of the earth, to where it's warm. Follow your breath if you like. Take a couple of deep, long breaths with me. In and out. In and out. Allow the chair to hold you. That's what it's there for. You can relax all of your muscles. You can let go of all the worry of the week, all the stress, all the hurry, all the have-tos and to-do lists. They can all go away for this moment in time. Give your body a little wiggle. See if there's anything blocking. Private Lives by Alan Peterson. How orb weavers patch up the air in places like fibers, or live in the fence lock. How the broom holds lizards. How if you stand back you will miss them, afflicted by sunset. The digger bees mining the yard. Birds too fast to have shadows. The life that lives in the wren whistle. You will see moth clouds that are moving breaths. No. You must be close for the real story. I remember being made to stand in the corner for punishment because it would be dull and empty and I would be sorry. But instead it was a museum of small wonders, a place with 3 walls, with whether my breath influenced, an archaeology of layers, of painted molding, a meadow we called them then, of repeatable pale roses, an 8-eyed spider in a tear of wallpaper turning my corner, the texture, the soft echo if I talked, if I said, I am not bad, if this is the world. How orb weavers patch up the air in places like fibers, or live in the fence lock. How the broom holds lizards. How if you stand back, you will miss them afflicted by sunset. The digger mines, the digger bees mining the yard. Birds too fast to have shadows. The life that lives in the wren whistle. You will see moth clouds that are moving breaths. You must be close for the real story. I remember being made to stand in the corner for punishment because it would be dull and empty, and I would be sorry. But instead it was a museum of small wonders, a place with 3 walls, with a weather my breath influenced, an archaeology of layers, of painted molding, a meadow, as we called them then, of repeatable pale roses, an 8-eyed spider in a tear of wallpaper, turning my corner. The texture, the soft echo if I talked. If I said I am not bad, and if this is the world. Thank you. In the meditation reading, we heard the opposite of a single story, didn't we? The story became more and more complex the closer he was able to get to the eight-eyed spider. The landscape of layers of old wallpaper showing, you know how that looks, right? Like you take molding off and there's you peel it back and like, whoa, what were they thinking? Over and over. And then we realize that these complexities they were revealed in himself as well. And he is delighted. From far away, the teacher couldn't see the beauty that was in the student, only the one thing that was noticed. Maybe he talked out of turn or played a little prank on someone or something, but the teacher wasn't able to see the complexity of his story. The description of this week's service goes like this. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie delivered her groundbreaking TED Talk in July of 2009 called The Danger of a Single Story. How does this concept of a single story play out in our personal lives, our work or congregational life, or with our families? What assumptions do we make when we consider only one aspect of a story? I found this a delightful and interesting topic to explore, and I'm hoping that you do too as we discuss it further. But first, I'd like to give you a little brief description of the TED Talk that I'm talking about, because then we can be on the same page, as it were. Adichie, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, grew up in Nigeria with professional, well-to-do parents. She said she had a very happy childhood. By the danger of a single story, what she means is that if we are far away from something, enough far away from something, we tend to see it as only one thing. She gives many examples of how when we hear only one thing, especially about a people, we are only able to think about them in that one way. She relays a story of her college dorm roommate at university in the United States, not understanding why she could speak English so well, or why she, an African, knew how to use a stove, or had read Hemingway. And by the way, English is the official language of Nigeria. I learned that as I looked into this story. The danger of the single story is that we can define and then defend ourselves against the idea of the stereotype. Here's a brief excerpt from her talk. So, here is how to create a single story. Show a people as one thing, as only one thing over and over again. And that is what they become. It's impossible to talk about the single story without talking about power. There is a word, an Igbo word, that I think about whenever I think about the power structures of the world, and it is Nakali. It is a noun that loosely translates to be greater than another. Like our economic and political world, stories too are defined by the process and the principle of Nakali. How are they told? Who tells them? When they're told? How many stories are told? Are really dependent on power. As they say, history is written by the winners. Power is the ability not just to tell the story of another person, but to make it the definitive story of that person. The Palestinian poet Mourid Barghouti writes that if you want to dispossess a people, the simplest way to do it is to tell their story and start with secondly. That's the end of the quote. By secondly, they mean to start the story with the colonization, the dehumanization, or the exploitation And then the story does not reflect the complexity of the people, but rather what happens after. If we start the story of Canada with the thousands upon thousands of years of interesting, complex, and innovative culture and very intricate ways of being, in other words, pre-contact, we have a very different story than if we start the story with trappers, settlers, and reservations. Adichie relays a story about herself getting caught up believing the single story. She went to Mexico for a visit during a time when immigration issues were tense and was surprised when she realized she had bought into the single story of Mexico. The single story is that they're just wanting to fleece the healthcare system, get American jobs, and sneak across the border. She says, I remember walking around on my first day in Guadalajara, watching the people going to work, rolling up tortillas in the marketplace, smoking, laughing. I remember first feeling slight surprise, and then I was overwhelmed with shame. I realized that I had been so immersed in the media coverage of Mexicans that they had become one thing in my mind, the abject immigrant. I had bought into the single story of Mexicans, and I could not have been more ashamed of myself. But we all fall victim to that single story, don't we? Poor people are lazy. Homeless people are mentally ill addicts. Ukrainian immigrants are hardworking. A single story isn't always negative or positive. However, it is always damaging. Can you think of a single story in your own life that has damaging effects? Have you made assumptions about someone based on a repeated story about them? A person, place, thing, a group. Perhaps we've forgotten to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, as Thoreau writes in our responsive reading. And just like in the meditation poem, we have to get up close and examine things from lots and lots of different angles. I remember many, many years ago, I was working for Canadian CIBC, the bank, in Cadbro Bay in Victoria, British Columbia. There was a woman there who we didn't always get along. She said to me one day, when I don't like someone, I realize I probably don't know their story. And so to help me understand the situation more, and actually so that I don't dislike them so much, I began asking them a lot of questions about themselves. Now, I was in my early 20s, and because I was so young and inexperienced, I knew everything. One day I found myself sitting next to her at a bank function and realized I was being grilled by her. It dawned on me then that she most likely didn't like me and was trying to understand my story because she had chalked me up to being this know-it-all kid that was altogether too annoying. I look back on it now and laugh, but at the time, I was pretty hurt and quite ashamed. Living life as a Unitarian Universalist isn't an easy journey. We expect a lot of one another. We have to be respectful, figure things out for ourselves theologically and philosophically, support one another, live in covenant with one another, support ourselves financially. We have to do all the jobs ourselves and actually be, if we wish to follow all of our principles and values, we have to be exemplary human beings. And we are guilty as a group, denomination, not just us in this room or online, but we're guilty of the single story, aren't we?
we're a little smug about our openness, our theological, liberal, and free-thinking religion. We have fallen for the single story. But there are too many nuances of every religion and belief to do that. There are liberal thinkers in every religion, as well as those that believe it should be their way or the highway. I wonder, this isn't a rhetorical question, I wonder, as you're sitting there thinking, what do you think, what do you say is the single story of the Unitarian Church of Edmonton? What do you think is the single story? What is your single story of the Unitarian Church of Edmonton? What are we all about? Any suggestions? Any thoughts? I'm just going to leave it with you for about 30 seconds and then we'll move on if there isn't any ideas. What is our story? Susan, I'll repeat it. Or maybe, do you mind using a mic? I'll have to repeat it back so that people online can hear, but that's okay.
I would say gay rights, and we are one of the two first churches in Edmonton and the first Unitarian church in Canada to do gay marriages.
So,
And I continue with things.
So Susan says the story of the Unitarian Church of Edmonton is that we support LGBTQ plus rights, that we were the first congregation in Canada to do a same-sex marriage. It was probably a commitment of being a union before being married was legal. And I would have to agree with that. We have a monthly, we support Dragon Youth Series here, so we have a monthly drag show for all ages. We are very open about the fact that we support gay rights. I would have to agree with that is, it is a complex story too. It's not just a single story, but it is also a very complex story. Anyone else? Thank you. Is there anyone online? Anyone else? Okay. It's a tough question, but thank you for thinking about it. Teresa. A welcoming place for open-minded people to be accepted. So we are accepting of open-minded people. You're right. Yeah, here we are. It's sometimes hard to fit in here. I've heard that from people that come, that it takes quite a bit to actually begin to feel like you're part of the congregation. I've heard that from newcomers. But I think that's the story of every single group that we can come in contact with. Audrey.
Spiritual call for people who are searching for who they are and what their faith is or not.
So Audrey says it's a spiritual home for people that are searching for who they are and for the truth for themselves. I think I'm going away from what you said. Truth from, okay? Yeah. So I think that in the community, I guess the question could also be asked, what would people in the community say about us? Who are we? What would people think about us? Yeah? So those are some of the questions, and so I had about 20 more pages to read, which is not true. But I think that we're going to leave it there. I hope I have got you thinking about what that single story is of who we are as a community and who you are as a person, and how it's important to move away from the single story and accept the complexity that is part of UCE. We are very multifaceted. We have all kinds of different personalities, and we do all kinds of interesting things. And we as individuals as well. Just like thinking about First Nations people as one way or another, or I think right now we're probably having a hard time of thinking about everybody in the US as not being like Trump and Elon Musk. And that is a single story that is not true, right? I read a little bit too much on Facebook, and I see that people are really coming back with a lot of comments like, this isn't who we are, right? So right now we could be guilty of that as a nation as well, and we need to look at those complexities that are underneath all of that. And with that, I think we should sing our final hymn. When the Spirit says do. But because it's complex, you don't have to do what you're told. But we'll sing about it anyway. Please rise in body or in spirit, and hopefully a little groove. Feel free to dance if you want. I would now like to invite Yvonne back to extinguish our chalice.
as I read these words by Terry Pratchett.
Exactly. A complex story.
There's always a story. It's all stories, really. Sun coming up every day is a story. Everything's got a story in it. Change the story, change the world. Reverend Rosemary is going to come up and give the benediction, and then Sean will give us a postlude. But I just want to mention, for information's sake, that Sean has, I think, download cards available of his album for $5. His upcoming shows are February 6th in Canmore Arts Place, along with Callum Graham, Antoine Dufour, and Kyle Poulin, and February 7th and 8th at the Edmonton Innovations Music, along with Callum Graham and Antoine Dufour.
Thank you all for being here this morning, braving. That'll make a difference. I'll start over. I didn't realize I was muted, sorry. Where was I? Okay. Thank you for being here this morning, for your welcoming to one another, for your contributions, as Lynne said, up there, down here, all over, and in behind the scenes, and all the work that happens during the week ahead of all of that happens this morning. Thank you for braving the roads to come here this morning. They were yucky, but I didn't slip around quite as bad as I did the other day when I was driving. So they weren't icy, but very messy. So thank you for being here. And I also would like to invite you now to go in hope. For the arc of the universe is long, and we together can bend it toward justice. And to go in courage, for together we have the strength to confront injustice in our daily lives and the larger world, and to go in love, because a holy and generous love is both the reason and the means by which we transform our world. So go in peace, gentle people. Go in peace. Amen. And I invite Sean up to do our postlude, after which we will carry the flame. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And now, shall we sing our linking song?
I have a question. After the linking song, can you sing the happy birthday song?
Can we sing the happy birthday song to... Let's do it before. Happy birthday to you. Happy